And here's a look at some of the other stories we're following for you right now. A massive 5-alarm fire ripped through a Home Depot last night in San Jose, California. The flames are so huge that at one point, the fire could be seen from space. Thankfully, no one was injured. The cause of this blaze, unclear. In Georgia, police there are investigating the shooting deaths of 3 people in an apparent robbery at gun range in Granville. Granville's about 50 miles south of Atlanta. The bodies of the gun range owner, his wife, and their teenage grandson were found there Friday night. Police say as many as 40 guns were stolen in this robbery. Right now, a $15,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. And Amazon is looking to overturn an historic union vote. Warehouse workers in New York City's Staten Island voted to unionize earlier this month. That's the first successful U.S. organizing effort in the retail giant's history. But in a legal filing, Amazon listed 25 objections, claiming the actions of union organizers, they say, tainted those results.
Well, there are more heartbreaking scenes from inside Ukraine's war zone as children left orphaned by Putin's brutal attacks. One U.S. aid group is working tirelessly to evacuate those children and bring them to a safe place within their home country. Alexis McAdams is live in southeastern Poland with the very latest on those rescue efforts. Alexis, what more can you tell us?
Arthel, well, as we've watched for the past several weeks, there's just so much destruction and disturbing video coming out of Ukraine. Russian troops are turning families into targets. These are innocent people. We're talking about men, women, and children being killed by Russian troops, and that's turning thousands of Ukrainian kids into orphans. They have no idea where to turn at this time because they don't have their parents, and they're in the middle of a war zone. Take a look at this video. This is really heartbreaking to think about for so many of these kids. These are videos of Ukrainian orphans. They're waiting to board these trains to evacuate from their war-torn country. Many lost their moms and their dads during the Russian invasion and other family members. Some of those people were killed by Russian troops, we're told by these humanitarian groups, and others died after they were left without food, water, or medical care for weeks. These kids left on their own in a war zone, not sure where to turn next. Now, American organizations are stepping in with the help of military veterans. They're trying to organize safe passages for those kids. Aerial Recovery and Global Empowerment Mission are 2 of the groups that we've been talking to. They're evacuating hundreds of orphans, going into those war zones to get those kids out.
A lot of times these kids have been hiding out in these bomb shelters, and their orphanage is getting shelled, or the building they're in is getting shelled for a week, and we finally are able to get a window to be able to get them out.
Now, at first, they were trying to get all of those Ukrainian kids out and trying to get them into Poland and neighboring border countries. But then human trafficking, Arthel, became a major concern. These humanitarian groups now tell me they're not bringing these kids to Poland anymore because the orphans were actually being targeted at the borders. They were coming out into Poland and getting into these cars with people that ended up not being who they said they were. So these humanitarian groups now working with the Ukrainian government to keep those kids in safer parts in western Ukraine. Take a look here. We can show you a little bit of video and the sound. Listen.
Problem is the good intentions being lost when the volunteers are bringing orphans to the border and they're handing them off to people that they don't know are good people.
Now, the attacks have continued there in Ukraine, and the number of refugees just keeps on climbing. UNICEF tells us a Ukrainian child has become a refugee almost every single second since the start of Russia's attacks on Ukraine. Back out here live in Poland, we can tell you the refugee crisis here just keeps on climbing. In terms of speed and in terms of scale, UNICEF tells us this is unprecedented with this refugee crisis, with so many people, including these orphans, not sure where to turn next. Arthel?
Got to protect the children. Alexis McAdams, thank you.
What Putin has done in places like Bucha and in Irpin, his war crimes, have permanently polluted his reputation and the reputation of his government. And together with our partners, we are going to ratchet up the economic pressure, and we will continue to intensify week by week the sanctions on Russia.
Oh, that's British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, of course, who made a surprise visit to Ukraine yesterday. His appearance in Kyiv, a blunt message of support for the country and aimed directly at Vladimir Putin. You know, it made for quite a remarkable scene as Johnson walked the quiet streets of the capital alongside President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and he also pledged new military assistance to Ukraine. The prime ministers talked with grateful Kyiv citizens they happened upon. It was a stroll of support and strength for the Ukrainian people. Ukrainian Parliament member Kira Ruddick joins us. Ms. Ruddick, welcome. We all admire your courage, your strength, and your bravery. You certainly are an inspiration in what you've been going through and what you represent for your country. But let me ask you first, what did the prime minister's visit mean to you and to the Ukrainian people to have him there in person?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Prime Minister's visit was really very uplifting to Ukrainian people. It's very motivational. It shows that the world is supporting us and that people are taking courage to come to Kyiv, even that the risks are pretty high. However, we also know that on the 46th day of war, we are still waiting for the world leaders to show the real leadership, to have the united set of sanctions, because while we are talking and while Boris Johnson pledged $120 million to support Ukraine, every single day European countries are paying $1 billion to Russia for Russian gas and oil. We are waiting for a leader to step up and say, okay, yeah, it's scary, but we are saying, no, Putin, we will not let you pass. Here is the set of the heavy weapons that Ukraine asked for so long. On 46th day of war, we are still not getting the real things that will be able to help us to fight Putin back. We are getting truly lots of uplifting visits, thoughts, ideas. But what we really need from the world leaders is a true leadership on uniting all those efforts and saying, okay, now we start doing the really needed things. This is what I'm asking every single member of parliament. This is what I'm asking every single world leader of the democratic countries who says that he is a leader indeed.
There are some, efforts to try and wean off of Russian oil and gas. In Germany, for example, Slovakia has decided to give you a S-300 anti-aircraft system, and you also have been calling for more tanks and those MiGs from Romania and Poland. What can the Biden administration do right now to supply you with more because of the upcoming looming Battle of Donbass to help Ukraine defeat Russia?
So, battle in Donbass, it will be, Lord of the Rings level battle. The good versus evil, and the good needs to prepare. And this is why we need fighter jets, we need tanks, and we need the sanctions to be united. They need to be unanimous. So there will be no dollars flying into Russia. Because what's happening right now, with one hand, leaders are supporting us, but with the other hand, they are feeding Russia and they are feeding the war with this money. So from the United States, we do need to cut off SWIFT, not for just some banks. We need to cut it off for all Russian banks. We need the heavy weapons. We need the jets that we have been asking continuously. There will be very hard to win without them. We need the supplies. Could you imagine that we are getting the supplies from the whole world, but every single day we are using and expending more than we are getting from the whole world, because we are fighting one of the largest armies in the world, and we are fighting them the way that we are actually pushing them back. So no matter how grateful we are for everything that we get, we do need more, because this is so important, and because this battle is so hard, and because we are facing like the tipping point of this war. We need to be ready to that. And we need the world leader to really step up and start getting together strategic plans rather than doing this point-by-point items. It's impossible to fight Russia with scattered efforts. They need to be unified, and they need to be really targeted.
The Biden administration is moving to provide you with more weapons. And finally, on the subject of visiting, I know it's symbolic. It's meaningful. I know you need the weapons and what you're calling for. Would you like to see President Biden visit Kyiv and walk the streets just as the Prime Minister did?
Oh, of course. That would be really a sign of solidarity. That would be a really bold move. You know, like why everybody admires Johnson for that? Because it was probably scary, because I know for sure that his security teams were advising him not to, and he came in and did that. This is what the world is expecting from the leaders, to do the bold moves, to show Putin that for every strength there will be a strength, to show Ukrainians that people are supporting our courage with their courage, to show that for every threat, there are people who have no fear.
So you would want President Biden, Vice President Harris, Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, minority leader of the Senate, Lindsey Graham, Nancy Pelosi, whatever U.S. official can come to Kyiv should make that stroll of strength a pointed message against Vladimir Putin?
Absolutely. That would be a real move. That would be a real support that we would need from the informational perspective, from the motivational perspective, and that would be a real hand that Ukrainian people need.
That's the invitation. Ukrainian Parliament member Kira Radek, thank you. And thank you for standing up for democracy. We wish you the very best, of course. We are with you.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.
Glory to Ukraine. Arthel?
Absolutely. Well, on the home front, Eric, facing a surge in crime, some of California's biggest cities spent huge chunks of COVID relief money on building up their police departments. That's according to a new report. We'll have those details for you. That's coming up next.